Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in time and space. Welcome to Just the Word TV, and thank you for joining our daily morning devotion. This channel is built on one mission to help you hear what God actually said, not tradition, and just the word. So, we have been, I guess, a new series has begun. We're looking at misunderstood passages and verses and just misunderstood things that we often go through in the Bible, often see in the Bible. And today, this is a big one, a big phrase, because this is a type of phrase that is used by a lot of churches, a lot of people, into into submitting to them, to the human form, to the human people, right? This is what people use to have members submit to them and to make sure that they are obedient to their particular leader. And this phrase is the fear of the Lord. And for a lot of us, those words conjure up images of a wrathful God, ready to strike us down, or perhaps a constant state of anxiety, always worried about making a mistake. It feels heavy, doesn't it? Maybe even a little terrifying. But what if I told you that our common understanding of the fear of the Lord might be one of the most significant misunderstandings in our faith? What if it's not about terror at all, but something far more beautiful, far more liberating, and infinitely more empowering? So today we're going to unpack this powerful truth and discover what the fear of the Lord really means. So our anchor scripture today comes from the book of Proverbs, a book filled with wisdom for living. It's Proverbs chapter 9 verse 10, and it reads, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. And this isn't just a nice proverb, it's a foundational truth for anyone seeking a life connected to God. But if we misunderstand the fear part, we're building our spiritual house on shaky ground. So let's talk about the misunderstanding. When we hear fear, our minds often jump to a very specific kind of fear: dread, terror, a cowering apprehension of punishment. We think of a child afraid of a harsh parent or a citizen fearing a tyrannical ruler. We imagine God as this cosmic disciplinarian, just waiting for us to mess up so he can bring the hammer down. And if that's our picture of God, then how can we ever truly love him? How can we ever feel safe or at peace in his presence? This distorted view often leads people away from God, convinced that he's either too demanding, too angry, or simply not worth the constant anxiety. They see fear of the Lord as a barrier to intimacy, a wall built of guilt. But that's not the whole story, not even close. That's not the fear the Bible is talking about when it links to wisdom and understanding. To truly grasp this concept, we need to dig into the original language, particularly the Hebrew word Yari, which is spelled Yirah. When the Old Testament speaks of the fear of the Lord, it is predominantly using Yara, and Yara isn't primarily about terror. It encompasses a profound sense of awe, reverence, respect, and worshipful wonder. It's the kind of feeling you get when you stand at the edge of the Grand Canyon and your breath is taken away, or when you witness a miracle of nature that is so vast and magnificent, it makes you feel both tiny and incredibly connected to something immense. For ancient Israel, Yara was an acute awareness of God's absolute holiness, his power, his majesty, and his utter otherness. It wasn't a fear that drove them away from God, but a reverence that drew them into a deeper, more humble relationship with him. It was the understanding that they were in the presence of the Almighty, the creator of the universe. Let's think about some examples. Moses at the burning bush in Exodus chapter 3. When God calls out to Moses from the flames, what does Moses do? He hides his face because he was afraid to look at God. Was it terror? Perhaps a touch of it, but more profoundly, it was a holy awe, a recognition that he was on sacred ground in the presence of something utterly beyond human comprehension. God wasn't threatening him, he was revealing himself. Next, we have Isaiah's vision in Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah sees the Lord seated on a throne, high and exalted, with seraphim flying around him, crying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty." What's Isaiah's response? He cries out, "Woe is to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips." He wasn't fearing punishment, he was overwhelmed by the sheer unblemished holiness of God, and it exposed his own human inadequacy. But this moment of Yirah led to his cleansing and his commissioning as a prophet. Even in the New Testament, in Acts chapter 9, verse 31, after Saul's conversion and the early churches faces persecution, it says then the church throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria enjoyed a time of peace and was strengthened. Living in the fear of the Lord and encouraged by the Holy Spirit, it increased in numbers. Here, the fear of the Lord is clearly associated with strength, peace, and growth, not terror or paralysis. It means they conducted themselves with deep respect for God's presence and authority. This Yara, this reverent awe, is the beginning of wisdom because it puts God in his rightful place, supreme, holy, magnificent, and it puts us in our rightful place, his beloved creation, dependent on him, yet called to partner with him. So, the true message of the fear of the Lord is this: wisdom begins when we see God rightly, when we recognize him not as a cosmic bully, but as the indefinitely powerful, perfectly holy, and deeply loving creator and sustainer of all things. This isn't a fear that drives us away, it's an awe that draws us close, filled with respect and adoration. When you truly stand in awe of God, understanding his power and his purity, it doesn't make you want to run and hide in shame. Instead, it invites you to bow down in worship, to surrender in trust, and to live in alignment with his incredible character. Think of it like this: if you truly understand the power of electricity, you respect it. You don't play with live wires, not because you're terrified of electricity of itself, but because you understand its immense power and potential for harm if misused. That respect allows you to use electricity safely and effectively. Similarly, understanding the immense power and holiness of God leads to a deep respect for his ways, knowing that aligning with them leads to life, deviating from them leads to self destruction. And here's the most beautiful part: through Jesus, we don't just experience God's holiness and power, we also experience his incredible love and grace. Jesus came to reveal the Father's heart. He showed us the holy, powerful God is also our Abba Father, our our dad. So our awe and reverence are now mingled with intimate love and trust. We fear him not because we're scared he'll hurt us, but because we'll recognize his absolute goodness and infinite worth. And we never want to displease such a loving father. It's the fear of breaking the heart of someone you deeply love and respect. So, how do we live with this reverent awe today? First, we can cultivate a sense of wonder. Spend time in nature, meditate on God's creation, reflect on his providential care in your life. Allow yourself to be truly amazed by him. This naturally cultivates Yara. Next, study his word. The Bible is where God reveals himself. The more you know him, his character, his promises, his faithfulness, the deeper your awe and respect will become. Third, recognize the difference between worldly fear and holy fear. Worldly fear paralyzes, isolates, and limits. It's driven by anxiety over what might happen, by insecurity, by self preservation. Holy fear, this reverent awe, empowers, humbles, and draws us into deeper relationship. It's driven by worship, by trust, and by a desire to honor God. Third, live a life of obedience from love. When you truly revere God, obedience isn't a chore, it's a natural expression of love and respect. You want to please him, not out of compulsion, but out of devotion. This is where wisdom truly begins, living in alignment with the one who designed us and knows what's best for us. As 1 John chapter 4:18 reminds us, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. This verse isn't contradicting the fear of the Lord, it's speaking against the terror of punishment. When we understand God's perfect love, that terror is cast out, making room for true reverent awe. So, though today's devotion was pretty short, it was just for us to get an understanding of this particular passage today. That the fear of the Lord is not something that is supposed to make you feel a type of depression. The fear of the Lord is not supposed to make you feel weak. The fear of the Lord is not supposed to make you feel less than. The fear of the Lord is not supposed to make you feel ostracized or feel left out. The fear of the Lord is speaking just to the absolute awe of the power of God, right? So when a church leader tells you, to fear the Lord, right? To fear the Lord, to fear God, to have the fear of God in you. It's not for you to feel afraid, right? Anytime someone is telling you to feel afraid, the mere fact that someone is telling you telling you to be afraid while trying to build your character in God is a huge contradiction. Because when you're developing your character in God, you're developing a fear in the Lord and not a fear of the world, right? And those two things are they have their two totally different things. The fear of the world, right? It produces negative emotions. It makes you want to cower in fear. It makes you want to find a corner and just hide there. But when you're dealing with the fear of the Lord, when you're dealing with that reverence, it's something different. Something different is built inside of you. There's a sense of confidence. There's a sense of courage. Because in order to enact the will of God, there needs to be confidence and needs to be courage behind you. You need to have that within you, because what's going to happen is when you're fulfilling the will of God, there's going to be a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of entities that are waiting there to stop you from doing what you're doing. And you have to understand and build that fear of the Lord, build that reverence, so you understand that you're not just doing this just for no reason, right? You're doing this because of the fear of the Lord. You're doing this because you have reverence and awe of the Lord your God. What the fear of the world gives you, right? It tells you to back down. It tells you to not continue moving forward. It muddies your name. It starts to spread things on your name to make you get to the point where you don't want to continue doing the will of God anymore, that you don't even want to continue living. That is not the type of fear that God is trying to instill in you. Why would God try to instill negativity within your life? Think about that very carefully when a pastor tells you that you need to fear God, but in retrospect is indirectly telling you that they need to fear you. They need to fear them, right? Why would God try to instill you with negativity? Why would God try to, if we're made in the image of God, right? If we're images of God, why would God want you to be walking around with fear, or walking around with depression, walking around with all these negative feelings that are caused by the fear of this world, right? Why would he want you to do that when he knows that delivering on on the will of God, or building this kingdom requires strength, requires courage, requires an understanding of God, requires a reverence and awe of God in the first place for you to begin building in the first place. So if someone is trying to tell you or trying to instill negative feelings into you, that you must have, where they're telling you that you must fear God, but in a way telling you to fear them, I need you to have them understand that they are not God. As much as people want to say that they are God's anointed people, you are not God. You will never be God. You will never be God. There's no chance in the world that you will ever be God. You are, however, made in the image of God. That's something completely different. So that means that you and I, right? Even if you are a pastor, even if you are a church leader, even if you are the Pope, right? You and I are supposed to be living underneath the fear of the Lord, and not underneath the fear of the Pope, not underneath the fear of the leader, not underneath the fear of the church. No, that is not what this is. The fear of the Lord is about reverence and awe. So I hope that you're able to get that particular point of view, that perspective, to continue moving forward in that state of awe and that state of reverence, and not in a state of fear that is supposed to make you feel lower than, that's supposed to make you feel less than, that's supposed to make you feel as if you're not worthy of anything. The fear of the Lord is a reminder of the fact that you are worthy, that you are worthy of the fact that of all the blessing that God has to give you. You are worthy of God's love, and you are worthy to continue developing yourself no matter what people are going to say about you. No matter what people are trying to say about you, no matter what people are trying to associate with you, leave it be. Let that go, because what's going to happen is, once you understand that fear of the Lord, you begin to recognize and begin to understand that whatever people have to say about you, whatever people have on you, whatever people have to, it does not matter, because it really does not matter. All they have are words. And what I like to say is this: if you're getting to the point where you can't stop me from doing what I'm doing, right? And all you can do is let's say all you can do is throw words my way, even if you try to blackmail me, right? to try to stop me from doing what I'm doing. It won't work because it does not matter. Can I tell you why? Because the fear of the Lord does not encourage me to feel depressed. It does not encourage negative feelings. So this has to continue moving forward. This has to continue moving forward because of the fear of the Lord, not because of the fear of somebody else or the fear of another human person. The fear of the Lord. So with all this understanding, all this being said, I hope that you were able to understand and grasp the fact that you are under the fear of the Lord. That not to misunderstand what the fear of the Lord is talking about. It is not meant to cause you to be depressed. It is not meant to cause you to cower in fear. It is not meant to cause you to feel weakened. It is something that is meant to give you strength, because it's supposed to remind you or give you that awe and that reverence, to give you the strength to continue moving forward and continue building this kingdom for God. So until next time, everyone, stay grounded, stay humbled, and above all else, stay aligned with just the word. Thank you.